Cheaters. How does it feel when you're getting intimate with your SO after you've cheated on them? It's a terrible feeling, one I never want to feel again. Here's the background. I had been dating my girlfriend for about a year. I was supposed to hit up a party with a friend on Saturday, then meet her at a second party later. I went to the first party, got drunk on homemade moonshine, and ended up taking a French girl who was flirting with me back to my apartment. Because, she was French, and when would I get this opportunity again? We got to my apartment, started hooking up, and that's the last thing I really remember. I woke up, all bare, rubber still on, with my apartment door wide open. She didn't even bother to close it all the way, which was especially crappy because I was living in a sketchy part of Chicago at the time. The regret hit instantly. I felt sick and immediately jumped into the shower, sobbing with my head in my hands for about 20 minutes. Eventually, I mustered the strength to get out and start getting dressed. Then the phone rang. My girlfriend. "What happened last night? Where were you?" I panicked and said I'd gotten too drunk and went home. I thought I could get away with it since my friend hadn't seen me leave with the girl. Wrong. Later that evening, my girlfriend came over and spent the night. We didn't do it because I felt dirty and wrong. Monday night, I went over to her place, but something was noticeably off. I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Tell me what really happened Saturday night." I insisted I just went home drunk, over and over. Then she delivered the kill shot. "You had 5 rubbers on your nightstand yesterday. We did it on Friday, and there were 6 left. Game over." I pleaded that it was probably a mistake, that maybe I had put one in my wallet. She asked to see my wallet, and I responded with the classic, "What, you don't trust me?" and refused to show it, storming out like I was the victim. Classic. I maintained my innocence about that night for the rest of our relationship, which ended up lasting almost 9 years. To this day, we're still friends, but I know she knows. I know she knows, and I still refuse to admit my guilt. And that's a pretty terrible feeling. Nothing says long-term commitment like failing a basic subtraction test and then gaslighting your way through a 9-year relationship. You really decided to make the empty wallet defense your hill to die on for nearly a decade over some moonshine and a French accent. Story 2. As someone who cheated in a previous relationship, I can say without any reservations that it felt like, well, normal. There wasn't any sense of shame, dirtiness, nor was there a sense of, yeah, I'm doing it with 2 different girls, and I don't care because I'm bad A. None of that. I was just simply having an intimate relationship with 2 different women, one of which I was in a committed and monogamous relationship with. Only it wasn't monogamous from my side, and I was lying about it. However, I don't regret a thing, not even hurting her. The experience gave me a lot of insight into myself, my triggers, and it also helped me ensure I had healthier relationships moving forward. I feel bad that I did hurt her, but it gave her the push to get away from me and find what it was she wanted and thought she had with me, which was a family, a husband, and a settled life. I couldn't, nor wanted to, provide that. We are now great friends. After 2 years of turmoil after we split, she's living exactly how she wanted, as am I. She knows everything, and we have forgiven one another for our faults. She had other things. What's important to remember is that in many cases, it's not a choice that is made by the cheating partner of, hey, this is going to severely hurt my partner in ways that they may not recover mentally. Screw it, I just want to do it, and the hell with them. It's far from it. For me, it was about getting the attention and affection I craved from my committed partner, but she wasn't providing it. The problem stemmed from me not speaking up and pretending things were fine. The cheater disassociates what they are doing with what they know is wrong. In a sick way, you convince yourself in many ways that they are the same person. You have your mental relationship with one and a physical with the other. They become one in your mind, and it's near impossible to differentiate between the two. This is hardly an excuse, and I take full responsibility for my choices. I simply speak from an angle of how it went through my mind and what I determined from the whole experience when I broke it all down to better understand why I did what I did and how to identify it in the future, should I ever come across the same triggers. And I have never cheated since. However, have seen the triggers, identified them, and I am confident my time of reflection prevented further foolish and crappy life choices. Story 3. Honestly, at first it was somewhat exhilarating, having to hide this big secret from my SO that could potentially destroy the relationship. The banging was good and bad. Good in a way that I felt sexier and powerful and could just let go and tell them what I wanted, but also bad in a way that I would constantly compare and, quite frankly, enjoyed it more so with the other person. I've heard that men can sometimes tell and feel if a woman has been having intimate relations regularly with someone else. It was kind of freaky when my SO at the time could tell and often joked around that I felt different. insinuating that I had been cheating. Anyway, sooner or later, the guilt kicked in. It was wrong, and I should have just ended the relationship when we weren't working out instead of seeking ways around it all and cheating, which ended up absolutely crushing my SO at the time. It's a terrible thing to do, especially when they still love you so much. I'm so sorry for all of you who have been cheated on. Story 4. I cheated on my girlfriend of 3 years, and boy did it kill a part of me. I have always seen myself as the type of guy who would never do anything like that. I am a dedicated boyfriend that goes to great lengths to please my SO. How the hell come I cheated on my girlfriend, you may ask? It all started after we moved in together. We had been a couple for about a year. Both physically and emotionally, everything was fine. We had a bit less intimate moments than we used to, but since the golden months of new couple romance had started to wear off, this was expected. I have never had a relationship that lasted this long before, so I figured this was quite normal. I also expected things to be better when we got a place of our own and more time with each other. However, quite the opposite ended up being the truth. As time went on, we engaged less and less in physical intimacy. At first, I tried new things and ways to excite her, but nothing really seemed to work. I looked to the internet for help at first, checking forums, Reddit, blogs, and even psychology sites to inspiration and ideas as how to tackle this problem. The one common thing everyone seemed to agree on was talk to her about it. I manned myself up and started talking to her about it. At first, I tried to explain to her how I first of all really just wished to turn her on and give her a pleasant experience, but I didn't get any real reply. In the end, most of our talks just ended up with me sounding frustrated and nothing solved. I have a certain liking that most people might not be into. It is one thing not to be able to fulfill your own fantasies and desires, another thing entirely not even being able to actually get the person you care for even a little bit interested. I tried everything I could think of. Nothing, however, seemed to hit the mark. When we actually did it, there was not really a problem. I know what to do. However, it always felt like she was with me only physically, but mentally she was not really that excited about it. It started getting to me hard. After about a year of this, I was really down, and it felt a lot like it was my fault for not being able to turn on my SO. After a few more talks, she revealed to me that she just wasn't that much into physical intimacy in general, and the parts of it she does enjoy is mainly the closeness she feels to me when we do it. At the time, I was dealing with a lot of other things, like a job that was really starting to drive me down. I had recently lost my father to cancer, and when at home, I couldn't really get in any wavelength with my SO. This was around the time I met the girl I would eventually cheat on my SO with at an event. At first, I thought of her only as a potential friend, but the more we talked, the more I realized how much we had in common, and our conversations gradually shifted toward intimate fantasies. I asked her for advice on how to deal with the problems I was having with my SO. To her, these issues seemed like mine alone, since the lack of intimacy did not really affect her view of the relationship. By that point, I had invited her to a few events with some of my friends, and she began getting to know them as well. After a few months of feeling increasingly down about the situation in my relationship, along with some of the previously mentioned issues, I ended up meeting her at a hotel, where some of the fantasies we had discussed were acted out. It was only then that I realized it did not actually feel that good. Even though it catered to my fantasies and desires, it felt hollow. I felt guilty. And because I had no feelings for her beyond general desire, I could not fully put my heart into it. Some time passed, I felt awful, and the woman I cheated with realized that I was not going to leave my SO for her. She then banged with another one of my friends and eventually ended up with my best mate. They are now a couple. Most of the times I did it with my SO. After that, I tried to ignore the guilt and focus entirely on making it good for her. But I felt empty most of the time. The part of me that craved the things I fantasized about was not fulfilled, and the emotional part that had made it feel good with my SO because I cared about her was shattered by my cheating. I told my SO about the cheating last week. I also texted my mate and explained everything to him, including how much I have hated myself since and some of the other things that have been weighing on me. At one point, when I was really low. As things stand now, my SO and I are still together and trying to work things out. I hate how much I have hurt her, and I am unsure whether that feeling will ever pass. Ah, yes, the dedicated boyfriend move of outsourcing your intimacy issues to a stranger who eventually social climbed her way into your best friend's bed. It is truly a special kind of talent to turn a private crisis into a permanent, awkward seat for your mistress at every future group brunch. Story 5. Nobody will like my truth. I cheated on my first girlfriend out of college a few times. We had been dating for 3 years. I honestly felt nothing. It didn't affect my relationship positively or negatively. It was almost like it never happened. Shortly after I came clean, she forgave me, time passed, and then I broke it off. Cheating is entirely selfish, but if you do cheat and you don't feel remorse, guilt, worry, then you should evaluate oneself with a goddamn microscope and make sure you don't drag anyone else into your BS until you figure it out. As the years have passed, I find myself with a great girl who I wouldn't even imagine crossing the cheating line with. Fully committing to someone takes vulnerability, hard work, dedication, and being selfless to your SO. It wasn't easy and it wasn't quick to get here, but it's much more rewarding when you do. Story 6, I moved away and didn't really want to be in a relationship with him anymore because we had only been together for a few months. I told him we should break it off, but he refused. He told me he didn't mind driving the 3 hours to see me at college, but I really just didn't want to be with him anymore. He chalked it up to me wanting freedom and a college experience, but that wasn't it at all. He literally refused so hard to let me break it off, and it would turn into a fight, and he wouldn't leave me alone, all after only being together for 3 months. So I cheated on him with only one guy, over and over, and I told him every single time, hoping he would just hate me and I wouldn't have to go through the process of changing my number or my dorm. I started a relationship with the guy I cheated with, and we have been incredibly happy ever since, but my ex is still an issue. He transferred to my campus. This all could have been avoided if I would have actually put my foot down and taken better action, but then I wouldn't have met the most wonderful men sleeping beside me, my son and my fiance. And to actually answer your question, I felt like I was cheating on the guy I was cheating with because I loved him so much more than my boyfriend at the time. I just thought I should explain myself first before giving such an answer. Story 7. In my case, I cheated on my then girlfriend because she was withholding intimacy to get what she wanted. I didn't intend on cheating with her. It just happened. I broke up with her not long after because she kept withholding it. She had major issues. Story 8. When I was about 21, I moved to Europe and lived there for the better part of a year. I was taking foreign language classes and living there with my girlfriend and her parents. I met her as a foreign exchange student here in America. We got along great in the beginning and loved each other the best way people in their young 20s can. We eventually started growing apart. We weren't very nice to each other and used to playfully call each other names, but that eventually turned ugly. I can't believe I'm going to share this part, but here it goes. She once stabbed me with a piece of frozen asparagus. Yep, it punctured the skin too. I was walking up the stairs in her parents' home and I was pinching her butt. She hated that, and I pretty much deserved what I got, but this is pretty indicative of our relationship. We used to be mean to each other for no reason. She used to brush her bangs with my toothbrush to make them straight, and I would find hair in my toothbrush, and I would go bizarro over it. So I ended up cheating on her multiple times with 3 different women. I slept with all of them. It felt pretty empty, and I knew I couldn't create a relationship with these other women either. Physical intimacy with my SO felt just as empty too. It wasn't particularly great before. It was okay, but nothing spectacular. I mean, I loved doing it, but emotionally there was no longer anything there, which really made it seem like something was missing. Ultimately, we split up and it was the best for both of us. She was a bit more upset in the beginning, but now she's perfectly happy. And I'm happy for her. I moved on and married someone else and have been with her for 7 years. And I never cheated on her. I never told her I cheated on her. No reason to hurt her further. We both knew the relationship was ending. I have a feeling she cheated on me too. She worked a ranch camp for kids over one summer and once asked me if I would care if she slept in a trailer with some guy she met because it would be more comfortable, just her and him. I knew she was attracted to him, she told me, but she told me she never slept with him. I think she was suffering from her own guilty conscience. Story 9. I was married, but we didn't love each other anymore. Our intimate life was pretty non-existent, so I ended up cheating. I felt bad because I knew it was wrong, but it also didn't bother me that much. Because I knew my wife and I were finished. I took a while longer, but we ended up divorcing. I never told her about my infidelity because, honestly, I think it would have hurt her more to hear me say it. The marriage didn't end well, and I didn't see a need to make her suffer more. Story 10. It made me hate myself. I was engaged to be married, and we had had a child about 8 months earlier. We had a very healthy and happy, intimate life until the baby was born. After that, it just never picked up again. I would try and talk to her, but she couldn't explain why, but doing it was now a chore to her. She decided that the way to fix the issue was that we would do it one day of the week, Wednesdays. While this improved the frequency, I could tell that she was forcing herself to do this. Eventually, any discussion about intimacy would lead to a fight. While this was happening, I got a new coworker. She was older with a few kids, but she was fun and easy to talk to. It was so easy to flirt with her and joke around because, in my mind, there was no chance for anything to happen between us. I was desperate for a woman's point of view of what was going on in my relationship, and I eventually confided in her. She thought my fiancé just needed some time. Having a kid really screws up a woman's hormones, and it can take a good long period of time for them to get back to normal. This seemed like really good advice, and even though I still wanted it, I decided to not press the issue of it. I would leave it to my fiancé to make the first move. This lasted for about a month, and then the subject of intimacy came up. We had a huge blowout that just left me feeling even worse. A few days later, we had a gathering of coworkers at a local club. I was happy to be out and drinking and wanted to blow off some steam. My coworker and I started chatting eventually. She wanted to know what was up because I had been on edge for the last few days. I told her the whole thing and I was pissed at myself because I couldn't control my urges. She listened to me go on and on most of the night without saying a word and made sure my hand always had a beer in it. Towards the end of the evening, she dragged me onto the dance floor. Once the music slowed down, she leans close to me and whispers that maybe if I was getting it from somewhere else, then I wouldn't need to bother my fiancé. In my drunken state, this sounded like the perfect idea. I took her back to my best friends and began a 3-week-long affair. The guilt was crushing, but the intimacy was great, and for a while it had the desired effect. That did not last long. After about a week and a half, I started to resent the fact that I had to go elsewhere. The intimate time during the weekly allowance with my fiancé was even worse than before. I was angry at myself for being weak, and angry that the dead bedroom had driven me to this point. I kept thinking that she was the person I loved and that she was the one I should have been having great intimate connection with. Then, one day, we had another fight, and she threatened to cut me off from doing it with her completely. I replied with something along the lines of, "That's fine, because I've been getting it somewhere else anyway." After that, we were no longer engaged. The guilt then became 1,000 times worse. My weakness had cost me the best relationship I had ever had, and my son was now going to grow up without me as a full-time dad. While it felt like the weight of the world was crushing me, the other woman thought it was wonderful. Now we could be together as an actual couple. I did not react well to that idea, as it made me feel sick. My ex-fiancé and I decided that we at least need to work together for our son's sake. He's 19 now, a great kid, and we have a great relationship. But we were through. I later found out that she had been having an affair, and that's why our intimate life had died. I wish I could say that. Wish I could. Learning that made me feel less guilty, but it doesn't. I still did the deed and still regret it. Story 11. I was terrified it wouldn't be the same. I have been with my boyfriend for over a year now, but the start of our relationship was very rocky, honestly. I'm surprised he stuck around to deal with my crap. To make a long story short, we had a bit of a falling out 3 months in. We broke up for a little bit, got back together, but it was still really rocky. Meanwhile, there was this guy at work I had a bit of a crush on. I didn't want to, I just really enjoyed talking to him, and I found him attractive. I made the mistake of going over to his place to hang out with him. One thing led to another, and next thing I know, I had done the deed and was full of complete regret. I contemplated telling him for a few days. At this point, we were starting to really work things out. I knew if I didn't tell him before the next time we were in bed, I would just feel like the world's worst person. He deserved to know. He was completely devastated. He was very hesitant about doing it with me again, so it was a while before he would let me get close with him again. But I think we both knew that if we couldn't break past that barrier, then that would be it for us. I don't even remember the doing it with her all that much, just how crappy I felt because I knew in the back of his mind, he was wondering if I was thinking about the other guy. If there is only one thing I could change about, that would be it. Story 12. It's pretty crappy to be honest. Honestly, when I cheated on my girlfriend, I had no idea why I did it. The other girl was hot, and we had great time once we got back home, but when I woke up and the alcohol haze was gone, I felt like the world's biggest scumbag. We have since broken up, but initially she was willing to stay with me even knowing I had cheated. Hearing her say that basically broke me emotionally, and I still haven't recovered. It was 100% my fault. What happened? But I still hate myself. Story 13. I suppose I fall into the category of the emotional cheater. This happened a few years ago. Wall of text incoming. I've been with my fiancé, at this time it was boyfriend, for almost 10 years. Like any relationship, there are ups and downs. At this phase in my relationship, we were really struggling. He was going through a really bad time. No job, dropped out of school, feeling bad about himself, and it really affected our relationship. At the same time, I was doing pretty well. I was almost finished college, and I was at the starting position for a career I've been working my back off for. I've always been kind of a few close friends kind of person, but those friends were, and still are, very close with my fiancé. Let me back up a little. I met my fiancé through my brother in high school, and we started dating shortly thereafter. I started to become really good friends with my brother's group of friends, and after several years, it's our little group of close friends. Anyway, I had no one to talk to that would actually understand what I was going through. They would immediately run to his defense if I talked about anything, and I couldn't exactly talk about the other issues of our relationship. We stopped being intimate, and the longest without was about 4 months. I would try to talk to my sisters or my mom, but they would just say, it'll work out. Sorry, but that's crappy advice. I wanted to find a solution. So I got into contact with a friend of one of our close groups, and he seemed nice and everything. We'll call him Chad. We all got along, played games together, and goofed around, all via Skype. We all live in different states. So I get to talking to Chad, and he's pretty cool. He tells me about his wife and his life and all. I think, oh God, perfect. I can ask this guy about what he's done in hard times in the relationship. So I start kind of asking him general things about being married and all that. Thinking back, he was really shady about it, but at the time, he kind of avoided questions about his marriage and redirected it to why I was asking. After a while, I finally told him that I was having issues with my boyfriend, and I wanted some advice to make it better. After that, he started talking to me more and giving me advice. I say that in quotations because I realize now he never wanted to give advice. I liked talking to him, and I liked getting a lot of attention when I wasn't getting any from my boyfriend. I would literally go weeks without talking to him. Chad would go out of his way to text me every day and ask me how I was. It felt nice. Then I made an innocent, immature joke about something ridiculous. I think it had to do with him eating peanuts and he was complaining about them being too salty. And I told him, "Oh, I thought you liked salty nuts, lol." He started to make comments about how pretty I was or how if he wasn't married that he would totally jump at the opportunity, etc. I saw millions of red flags, but I was so lonely, and I liked the attention that I let it continue. That was when the manipulation started. After maybe a week of all of this, I told him I didn't feel comfortable talking like that, and it didn't feel right to do that to his wife and my boyfriend. He told me that we were just fantasizing and that it didn't hurt anyone. He would say it in such a way to make it seem like I was overreacting and that I shouldn't be reacting that way. I thought I was being crazy, so I just let it continue for a couple months. I continued to quietly feel horrible guilt about all of this. At its worst, I got drunk and Skyped with him and did a strip poker kind of thing, but I didn't let it go that far. Never got bare or anything. I would also sometimes send him pictures of me when I was on my way to work to comment on my outfit or my makeup. I had to stop. I couldn't do it anymore. I told him I didn't want to talk about any of that anymore, and I didn't want to talk to him anymore. He would try to continue things, but I would shut him down or not answer his texts or calls. Shortly after, I got some texts from his wife telling me she saw the texts from me and him, and she wanted an explanation. I told her, and she told me she didn't blame me. Apparently, I wasn't the first one he did this to. He had a history of manipulation and cheating on her. I told her I was sorry and that I never wanted it to even happen. And she said she forgave me because I ended it and I never let it get physical. I haven't spoken to either of them since. That was about 5 years ago. My fiance and I worked really hard at everything. And now he has a great job and our relationship couldn't be better. I told my fiance about it a year after and he was upset, but he forgave me. He knew that I initially wanted to get some advice and that I didn't intend for anything to happen. I told him I was sorry and that I would never let it happen again. I've stayed 100% loyal and faithful to him, and I intend to stay that way for the rest of my life. I still get sick to my stomach thinking how naive and stupid I was for letting that happen. For the things I did, even though I'm told it wasn't that bad, I can't ever forgive myself. Edit. I wanted to add that I tried everything to help my boyfriend when we were struggling. I tried being supportive and positive, but he started draining all of the energy I had and he didn't want to put any effort into getting better. I tried to help him find a new job. When he was in school, I would study with him and help him with writing. I felt like I had tried everything to help him get better, and that's all I wanted. I wanted for him to be happy again. It killed me that I couldn't be the one to help him, and that's how I started trying to seek advice. It is clear you were carrying the heavy emotional burden of the relationship entirely on your own, which made you incredibly vulnerable to a manipulator who knew exactly how to exploit your loneliness. The fact that you took full accountability and worked through the pain with your fiancé shows a level of resilience and maturity that has clearly defined the strength of your marriage today. Story 14. I cheated on my ex-boyfriend constantly because he made me feel like crap all the time. Constant emotional abuse. The kind that makes you feel like kicking his A to the curb and still wanting to give him a chance and maybe change his abusive ways. Our intimate life was pretty regular, and the last year of our 3-year relationship, I was not attracted to him or wanted his D anywhere near me. So the answer is, I never banged him right after or even soon after cheating. I was cheating because I was not emotionally and intimately satisfied by the person I had a long history with and couldn't easily leave. On the rare occasion it did happen, I faked it and thought about the other men or women I was hooking up with. I finally got away from said ex-boyfriend, which ensued an additional 2 years of him stalking me and having to get a restraining order. I didn't feel bad then, and I don't feel bad now. Story 15, I had a friend for a few years who was a philosophy major that was a serious adherent to utilitarianism. This, of course, bled over into his love life, and he would always be in some kind of balancing act or another with multiple girlfriends, bang buddies. He made sure they never found out about each other and kept them only as long as they maintained sustainability under his system. Chiefly, he believed that what he was doing wasn't wrong, based on the grounds that as long as none of the girls found out about each other, there wouldn't be any cheating-related bad feelings, and meanwhile, he himself was reaping the benefits of multiple girlfriends. I assume even if one or two were to find out, he would still be in the black utilitarian wise because he could just dump the others and move shop to a new place. I struggled a lot with this in my youth. I was with a GF I hated breaking my back to make my relationship work, and I was flustered and probably a little jealous of his gallivanting. In retrospect, he taught me that there is no one-size-fits-all for relationships, but I also think that the fact that someone won't be hurt by a lie they don't discover is not justification to lie to them. Story 16. I was in a long-distance relationship, and we weren't going to be seeing each other for about 7 months, and then most likely a year after that. This was immediately after having lived together and being a very close, strong couple, and turning into a 10-hour time difference on the other side of the world. I had so much trouble with being intimate through online means, and it not only didn't work for us that way, but it had negative effects on my drive when we tried. So I ended up finding a bang buddy, not even a friend with benefits, just a person to use in place of my much-loved partner. He was aware that I couldn't get attached, and I convinced myself and others that I was in an open relationship as I knew I could handle that, but my partner never could. He visited, and I did feel pretty bad about it, except I still had the complete separation in my mind of the person I loved dearly. And basically the dong I was using to make myself feel better while he couldn't be there. In the end, my long-distance relationship ended as the distance was too much of a burden, and we were both very unhappy outside of what we had together, and it was affecting our day-to-day lives. I'm still banging this other person, but I'm still quite detached and just want my needs met and to feel intimacy without any complications, or for now, any emotions. 3 months since we split up, and I still can't get over it. Story 17. I'm a female in my early 20s who may be a psychopath. I don't feel guilt or remorse or any of the traditional emotions. I see nothing wrong with doing whatever is necessary for the things I want. My fiancé and I have been together for 2 years. When we got together, I had a 3-month-old. He's raised him as his own and is a much better parent than I am. I trust him with my son's life and will do anything to make sure our family stays together. That being said, I find people's feelings exhausting. I avoid being caught not because I feel bad, but because it would be tiring to deal with all the drama. I know my fiancé would be broken if he knew, so as long as he never knows, he's happier. I don't understand why people think honesty is better. If I'm honest, he'll never recover. If I lie, nothing changes for him. Our intimate life is fantastic, and I think it improved after I cheated. I loved that feeling of getting away with something, the excitement over the taboo. There's also something thrilling about the power aspect. At any time, I could crush him. I could destroy my relationship with one sentence. I'm in control of his version of reality. In his mind, I'm faithful. I get to decide whether or not that continues to be true for him. I know that doesn't conform to traditional moral values. I don't understand monogamy and don't understand why I should be restricted just because everyone else puts more value on physical relation than I do. If my fiancé had relations with someone else, I wouldn't be bothered at all. If he had feelings for someone else, I would be irritated because that would risk the life that I've put in place for my son. Story 18. I once went on a date with another girl while I was already in a failing relationship. It made me feel like crap the whole time, even though nothing more than a hug happened. I can't even fathom what cheating on my wife would feel like. FYI, I realized that I am not emotionally capable of being involved with more than one person. I learned that day that if I want to meet someone new, I need to break it off with whoever I'm currently with. Story 19. I'm a woman, and I cheated on my ex-husband with the same man multiple times. My ex-husband was extremely controlling, and at the time, that was my only way out of the relationship. He eventually found out, and we ended up divorced. I am almost certain that he wouldn't have divorced me under any other circumstance. How I felt when I slept with him after the fact I cheated on my ex. Liberated. I felt entirely liberated. I was smirking to myself, almost as if to think, you'll get yours soon enough. I know I'm a piece of crap for cheating on my ex, but that's what you get when you marry at the ripe age of 22. Downvote me or whatever you want. I really don't mind. I know it's an awful thing to do to someone, but I couldn't help feeling so relieved after sleeping with someone who wasn't my controlling ex-husband. Story 20. I started dating a girl at the end of my senior year in high school. I had broken up with my girlfriend of 3 years and started working out to boost my self-esteem. And it worked. I found an awesome girl. She was a sophomore, but she had the most sparkling personality and was a huge improvement from my ex as far as looks were concerned. The next year, I went off to college and tried to make the long-distance relationship work, but it was hard. On top of that, everyone I met at college told me she would only hold me back and keep me from making new friends. There was a hot girl always hanging out with some of my friends. And one night, when we were drunk, I got her in my bed. I was ready to do it with her, but when the moment came, I couldn't do it. At that moment, I realized I just couldn't cheat. After that epiphany, it made me appreciate my girlfriend and our intimate life more than I ever had before. And yes, I told her about it a few months later. She freaked out, but she didn't leave. Story 21. It feels, for lack of a better word, off. I had been with my SO for about 2 years when I cheated. I was studying abroad while he was back in our home country. The reasons why I cheated aren't important to the story. The fact is, I did it. I came back to my SO 4 months later, and when we did it, all I could think about was how it didn't feel the same at all. The kisses weren't what I expected, and I went above and beyond what I would normally do, trying to make up for the fact that I cheated, as if somehow being more amazing after being gone for so long would magically make up for being unfaithful. We would kiss and make out, and all I remember thinking was how weird his mustache felt and how there was no spark when things finally got going. We broke up shortly after that. Story 22. Boy, reading all these people talk about how much they feel like D-heads makes me feel like I'm dead inside. I slept with an ex in the back of her father's Volvo while waiting for my then SO to pick me up to drive from Tennessee to Illinois. It was fantastic because she was a total fox, 910. Still have some pictures from that night somewhere. I hold no illusions. It was a dumb thing to do, but I don't feel bad and I don't regret it in the least. Story 23. I dated a girl for a year and we got engaged. We had a healthy, intimate life until about 6 months after the engagement. She became a mom type and wasn't really interested in being physically intimate. This isn't a justification for my actions. I would go into the office after work and play Star Wars, had just come out, and got one of my old World of Warcraft guildmates to come back and play. Long story short, the old guildmate came out and said she had been interested in me for about 8 years. My ego was boosted. Someone actually wanted to talk to me about interesting things and appeared genuinely interested in me. I had to travel for work sometimes, so I said I had to go to Providence. I met up with the old guildmate and we banged like rabbits for 5 days. I came back home and tried to act like heck. Nothing happened, but everything was gone for my fiancé. Not that she was boring, but I felt it was boring. Whatever it was. She tried to do it with me, but I honestly couldn't get my little guy up. I felt pretty bad and I figured that would give it away. I ended up breaking up with my fiancé and dating the guildmate. We're now engaged, have a kid, and share plenty of the same interests. My ex is getting married herself in a few days. I haven't talked to her since and lost a lot of mutual friends because of what I did. I feel awful for what I did, but I don't regret it. If I could change anything, I would have come clean to my ex earlier. She'd probably try to fix it, but it wouldn't have worked. She was a sweet girl, just not the one for me. Story 24. Technically, I cheated because there was no legal separation or divorce. Backstory, my ex-husband was emotionally abusive, a drunk, and refused to take my help. I even called the cops every time he stormed out and drove drunk after a bad argument. We have a daughter, and he once passed out with her on his chest when she was a baby. He rolled over, she fell on the floor, started crying, and he didn't move a muscle. Luckily, we lived with my mother. I was at work, and my mother picked her up, made sure she was okay, and didn't tell me until 3 months later. That fact still baffles me and was ultimately what broke the camel's back and made me kick him out. I should also add that we lived with my mother because he was fired from his job for drinking at work. Flash forward to the night I kicked him out. He came home claiming he hadn't been drinking, but it was obvious he was wasted. I told him I couldn't take it anymore and that he needed to get his life together because I wanted him out. I drove him to his mother's, drove away, and pulled into a park to cry my eyes out. I knew I had to do it, but it was still the hardest thing I'd ever done. That night, I went out with friends 2-tracking. One friend was a regular at the gas station I managed. I knew he was into me and I decided to take advantage of the situation. When we stopped to sit and drink in the woods, about 20 of us total, I asked him to talk to me alone. He didn't know I had just kicked my husband out. We walked into the woods for about 5 minutes. I turned to him and told him I needed him to do something for me. When he asked what, I told him to make sure I was satisfied. Mind you, I had been drinking, so my inhibitions were down. One thing is true, he definitely left me satisfied, and I had leaves and dirt in places you don't want them. When we walked back to the trucks, we learned that everyone had heard us. Apparently, we weren't as far away as we thought, and I can be noisy. My ex and I tried to make it work, but I had no desire, especially after what happened with my daughter. The guy from the woods and I slept together a few times over the next 3 years. Totally worth it. Totally what I needed to feel confident in myself and my decision to get out of that situation. Story 25. It's bizarre. I had a very serious relationship where the bedroom activities were pretty bland. I felt bored and needed something more exciting, so I pursued another woman. I cheated, lived out my little fantasy, had great time, and was bursting with confidence. However, I couldn't perform for months because I was too stressed about her finding out. Every time we did it, I was thinking of the other woman, and it killed the mood. Eventually, we got away from the routine, away from home. So I wasn't thinking of the other woman, and we had absolutely amazing time. I performed better and had great confidence, sneaking in a few tricks I'd learned with the other woman without her noticing too much difference. So, how did I feel? Confident, experienced, masculine. How did I really feel? Guilty? Horribly guilty. Story 26. When I was 19, I made the worst decision of my life. I had been with a girl for about a year and a half and was feeling like the relationship wasn't going to progress much further. I was unhappy and contemplating breaking up. During this time, my most recent ex started contacting me frequently after seeing me at a drive-thru one evening, telling me how she missed me. At the time, I was really into Tracy Chevalier novels, and apparently my ex was too. She would leave letters on my car windshield with quotes from the books. I decided to see her one evening to catch up, something that was supposed to be completely platonic. Long story short, we ended up doing it. I immediately felt guilt. I knew what I had done was wrong, even considering my plans to break up with my current girlfriend. However, I had a change of heart about my girlfriend. I no longer wanted to end things. Our relationship was going better than ever, so I kept it from her for over 2 years. During that time, we became incredibly close, we got engaged, and she became my best friend and true life partner. One night, I finally told her the truth. It absolutely devastated her. I had never seen anyone so hurt. After about a year of trying to mend things, she ended our relationship. This was roughly 6 years ago. I'm still not over her. My dreams are filled with our ghost, and not a day goes by that I don't think of her. While cheating wasn't perceived as improving the relationship, it didn't make it feel wrong at the time, but in the end, it was simply not worth it. Story 27. I personally haven't cheated, but the girl I was with recently was cheating on her boyfriend to see me. Most people assume cheaters are horrible people who act out of impulse or drunkenness, but for me, this wasn't the case. She had cheated on him with 3-4 other guys before, and our situation initially started as a drunk encounter since she knew I liked her. After we did it, it was awkward. Keeping it secret was hard, and I only told a few friends who weren't involved. We got coffee and talked about what happened. At first, it was uncomfortable, but I reflected on why I had gone along with it. It was selfish. I did it because I was in love with her. Though I didn't realize the long-term consequences at the time, we would talk on the phone for hours, and she would miss calls from her boyfriend to talk to me. I finally felt a sense of worth, as this was the most someone had ever cared for me. This continued until we organized for her to stay over at my house. For some reason, her boyfriend trusted her not to do anything with me. We had amazing emotional session. She admitted I was a better lover than him, which boosted my ego. We kept a side relationship secret, and I accepted it because I understood her situation and believed she needed someone besides her aggressive boyfriend. Over time, I realized she was extremely emotionally unstable. She admitted she had regretted everyone she had cheated on her boyfriend with, except me. It was a roller coaster. The highs were incredible, but the lows were crushing. Her manipulative behavior became clearer in retrospect. Her parents' divorce a year prior and her treatment at home shaped her actions. She got what she wanted from me, attention and affection outside her primary relationship. I was deeply affected, crying after our first breakup and dragging the situation out because I didn't want it to end. Eventually, the relationship faded. She won't even make eye contact with me now, aware of how she treated me. I could have ended it better, and perhaps I still will, but this is the story as it stands. Story 28. I didn't exactly cheat on her, but I did break up with her to sleep with another girl. I still loved her, but I thought I loved being single more. Turns out, I didn't. The girl I hooked up with after the breakup was attractive and cool, but during our intimate session, I was hit with deep disappointment and regret. Realized that I had thrown away a great relationship just with someone I didn't truly care about, just for a few minutes of pleasure. After 2 weeks, my ex took me back. I told her the truth and she forgave me, but I still feel like an a-hole half a year later. I'd like to say it was worth the lesson, but no, it wasn't. Don't cheat or do anything similar. Story 29. A few years ago, I cheated on my boyfriend, and it led to the worst years of my life. We had been dating for about 3 years, and things were going okay, but not as well as they had been. I've always been insecure, and when we started to get complacent with each other, my insecurities came back full strength. I was young, only about 19, we didn't flirt as much, and I just had the feeling he wasn't attracted to me anymore. Dumb, I know. but it was how I felt. We talked about it, but it didn't help. Then one of my guy friends started flirting with me a lot over text, and I flirted back. It got heavy. I was hiding my phone and messages. I felt dirty, but excited. And then one day we met up, and it was exciting at first. But every time he touched me, it was wrong. But I didn't stop it. To this day, I don't know why, and it still makes me sick. So we did it, and I drove home in shame. A couple days later, and I couldn't live with myself. I texted my boyfriend and said I had to talk to him, but I was so depressed I tried to drink myself to a stupor. I confessed everything to him, and he forgave me. We tried to make it work for a couple weeks. Then another guy who ended up ruining my life started to take advantage of me. My boyfriend and I took a break, and I ended up hooking up with a different guy. He guilted me into it, saying how sick he was lying to me, and how much he admired me. He later went on to verbally and emotionally abuse me to no end. But when my boyfriend found out that was it, he was furious and we broke up. I was devastated. I couldn't wrap my head around why the hell I'd cheat like I did. It drove me to a deep depression, driving me away from friends and family and leaving me trapped with this scumbag. I was very naive. It's truly exhausting to watch another human set their entire life on fire because they mistook a temporary lull in attention for a tragedy, proving once again that we are a species hardwired for self-destruction. Story 30. Honestly, nothing. Everything was the same. No guilt, no digest, nothing. The affection I felt stayed the same too. Then again, I never have been able to attach any meaning to intimacy, and I think I'm messed up as a human being. I've never been able to form relationships properly. I can easily get close to someone, feel a lot of pain when they're gone, but completely move on the very second they're gone. A lot of my fibs often get very confused since they'll often think we're more serious than we really are. For the longest time, I would just say thanks and then get up and leave after doing it. Well, I'd confirm there would be no further rounds before I left, of course. I guess guys usually don't like making a big fuss about it, but one guy did, and I learned that wasn't normal. So then I moved on to only hooking up on weekdays, preferably lunchtime, so I could lie about needing to leave in a hurry to finish up work. One of my friends thinks my childhood made me weird. I grew up in 3 different countries, 4 cities, and changed schools 6 times by the time I was 16. I always stayed long enough for it to suck when I had to move. My dad was busy working and my mom was busy socializing, so I was raised by various nannies. Since my mom was difficult, the longest any of them stayed was 1.5 years, and that was only the one abusive nanny who used to physically hurt me to take my pocket money. The next longest nanny stayed only for a year. I no longer remember any of their names, except for the abusive one, but I do remember crying hysterically every time a nanny I liked left, since some of them were more of a parent to me than my parents ever were. I know people who grew up in similar situations who are relatively normal, so I don't think my childhood is any excuse. I'm just a messed up human being. Story 31. I kind of cheated on my high school sweetheart. We were together for 2 years in high school before we decided to go to college together. Things were already kind of falling apart, but I thought that having the freedom of college would somehow strengthen our relationship. We lasted a few months in college before I broke up with her. She still wanted me, and I still did want her. So we started a friend with benefits relationship. It was dumb, but it wasn't until 7 months later that I actually hooked up with another girl, an old high school crush before I met my ex-girlfriend. It was liberating in a way because I had low self-esteem, and it was a huge ego boost. We didn't even do it, but doing it with my ex-girlfriend was much more satisfying because I felt better about myself. It didn't last long, though. My ex-girlfriend ended up lying to me about being pregnant and having various forms of illnesses because I'm guessing she could sense me slipping away. She ended up finding another terrific guy and ended the friend with benefits relationship with me. I felt free and awesome for a while, but I'm terrible with women and haven't had a girlfriend since. Karma, I guess. Story 32. I was in a long-distance relationship for 4 years, and I cheated throughout most of it. She would visit me sometimes, and I would visit her as well. The first time, I did feel guilty. We said we loved each other and planned to marry, and that made it worse. I think part of why we held on was because we had so little time together to begin with, about 9 months in total. We kept hoping that one day we would end up together. But eventually my lust took over and I cheated, repeatedly, when I could. Not stop. I convinced myself it was only natural, that I needed a release. I tried to break things off with my 4-year SO, but we went in circles. In the end, it turned out we had both cheated, driven by the same rush and urge. Now I am older, 25, and I value relationships more. I'm about to start a relationship that I never intend to cheat on. That was the old me. So whatever happens, wish me luck, or maybe this dog really will never change. I think if there's one lesson everyone should take away from this story, it's if you have cheated, are cheating, or feel you could have the capacity to cheat, do yourself and everyone you could possibly hurt a favor. Break up with your SO and start open relationships with open people. You'll get all the the confidence and thrill of cheating with none of the guilt and without hurting other people in the process. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.